Once upon a time, in a kingdom nestled deep within a dark and twisted forest, there lived a beautiful princess named Snow White. But unlike the fairy tales told to children, this was no story of kindness and magic, this was a tale of terror. Snow White's stepmother, the evil queen, was a powerful sorceress who used dark magic to keep herself young and beautiful. Her magic mirror, a twisted artifact forged from the bones of forgotten souls, whispered secrets of the kingdom and the fates of those within. One day, the mirror spoke in a voice that sent chills down the queen's spine. "There is another in the kingdom whose beauty will soon surpass yours, queen. It is Snow White. If she lives, your power will wane, and the darkness you command will fade." Consumed by jealousy and fear, the queen plotted to have Snow White killed. She summoned a huntsman, a man whose eyes were hollow and soulless, to take the princess deep into the forest and cut out her heart. But when the huntsman lured Snow White into the woods, something sinister began to happen. The deeper they went, the more the trees twisted, and the ground seemed to pulse beneath their feet. The forest was alive, and it was watching. When the huntsman raised his blade to strike Snow White, the trees reacted violently. Branches wrapped around his arms, pulling him into the shadows. His screams echoed, but they were quickly silenced by the forest, leaving Snow White alone in the eerie silence. Snow White ran deeper into the forest, where she stumbled upon an abandoned cottage. But this wasn't the home of 7 dwarfs, it was a decaying ruin, filled with strange markings carved into the walls and floor. As night fell, strange whispers filled the air. The shadows inside the house twisted and shifted, and Snow White realized she wasn't alone. The forest spirits had taken the form of twisted, nightmarish dwarfs, each more grotesque than the last. Their eyes glowed with an eerie light, and they spoke in riddles about the queen's curse. They weren't there to help, they were there to watch. Meanwhile, back in the castle, the evil queen had prepared her final spell. She created a poisoned apple, its skin black and pulsing with dark magic. With a single bite, the spell would steal Snow White's soul, trapping her in a nightmarish limbo forever. Disguising herself as a hag, the queen ventured into the haunted forest, her cackle echoing through the trees. Snow White, exhausted and desperate, fell for the queen's deception and bit into the apple. But instead of falling into a deep sleep, her body convulsed as dark magic ripped through her veins. Her eyes turned black, and a scream unlike any other tore from her throat. The forest shook, the sky darkened, and the spirits in the cottage writhed in delight. Snow White had not died, but had become something far worse. Twisted by the curse, she became a vengeful spirit, forever haunting the forest, her once beautiful face now a mask of terror. The queen, believing she had won, returned to her castle. But she could never escape Snow White's wrath. As the years passed, strange figures began appearing at the castle's gates, ghostly forms of young girls, all with blackened eyes and haunting smiles. They were Snow White's victims, lured into the forest and trapped in her curse, just like the princess herself. The evil queen could hear their whispers in the night, growing louder with each passing year. Snow White was coming for her. One stormy night, the queen looked into her mirror, only to see Snow White's twisted reflection staring back. "Your time has come," she whispered, as the castle walls trembled, and then, the darkness consumed them both.